Welcome to On Track. I'm Aisha Jaffer. It's fall in Louisville, festival season, spooky season, and a time when arts and culture are buzzing all across the city. Today, we're checking in on what's happening with someone who's dedicated to telling those stories, LPM's own arts and culture reporter, Giselle Rhoden. Originally from right outside of St. Louis, Giselle came to Louisville in 2021 and quickly immersed herself in the community. She studied communications and digital media at Bellarmine University and sharpened her reporting skills at Leo Weekly and CNN Digital. Now, as part of the LPM newsroom, Giselle is exploring the intersections of art, identity, and community, whether they're spotlighting fall festivals, digging into cultural traditions, or elevating the voices of local artists shaping Louisville's creative landscape. Giselle, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Aisha. That was such a nice introduction.
Well deserved.
Thank you.
And I'm actually curious, thinking about your history, can you share a little bit about your journey in the arts and culture world and what drew you to this beat?
Yeah, so I wanted to be a reporter for a very long time. When I was at Bellarmine for my undergrad, I realized that was the thing I wanted to do. Marketing communications wasn't really my thing, so that's how I kind of got into it. And the second internship that I had was with Leo Weekly. My first one was with CNN Digital. I worked for the race and equality team, which no longer exists, but I was very honored to be a part of it. I was one of the youngest interns they'd ever had, so that was really, really cool. And then I started to Leo Weekly, and I was the intern there, and I learned so much about the arts and culture community in Louisville because I'm originally not from here. It was so fun being at Leo and kind of having the ability to kind of just report whatever I wanted at that point because I was an intern. But I was so arts and culture forward because that's what Leo was. And I loved it so much. And I'm a musician. So I loved learning about the new bands that are in Louisville and when they're playing shows and then what venues and how big they are and who can have what. And learning about the music scene and then the art scene with fine arts, but also learning about sports and all that other stuff because I know Louisville is a sports city. It was so cool to learn all of that. So then when Bria, the arts and culture reporter before me, who is also a good friend of mine, when it was my time to take her spot, she told me, she was like, I don't want anybody else doing this role but you. And I had been at LPM for a while. I started as a breaking news reporter, similarly to Bria. So her and I bonded about that because we had similar journeys. And I learned a lot of arts and culture from Bria. So I do feel like it was a passing the torch moment. And I was super happy that I was able to do that for her.
That's beautiful. I really love that, passing the torch. So, what excites you most about covering arts and culture in Louisville?
Yeah, so I think the thing that excites me the most is that there's so many different communities that I'm still learning a lot about as somebody that's not from here. But also some of them are really big and some of them are really small. For example, the theater companies in Louisville. Obviously, you have the larger venues, and then you have those really small kind of theater companies that are just getting their start or they've been gone for a little bit and they come back. It reminds me of when I wrote a story about Time Slip Theater and they were doing a production and their whole thing, they're kind of kooky, but they're also really cool because they're basing stuff around horror films. They're horror fanatics, and that's kind of their shtick. So I remember they did Who Invited Them, which is it's a film. It's kind of a comedy, but it's also kind of a drama and a thriller. And they turned it into a play, which was the first play adaptation of the film. And learning about them, that was one of the first things that I did when I started in arts and culture. And I said, wow, this is really cool because I'm learning about these little tiny theater companies that are doing these larger things. They even contacted the director for the film and the director came to the opening night of the show. It was really cool. It was awesome to learn about that. But I love learning about the smaller people, the people that don't really get the attention that they usually get from other media outlets. I love having the opportunity to tell other people about them.
Yeah, and tell their stories, right?
Absolutely.
So when you look at Louisville, compared to other places you lived or covered, what stands out to you about the scene here?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. My gosh. That's a really good question. In Louisville, I think it's just really, Louisville's heavy on community. And before I was arts and culture reporter, I was an engagement reporter and producer. I did a lot of work with bringing Curious Louisville back, which is my big thing. I'm still working on it now, but from doing that, I learned that sometimes you can stay in your bubble in Louisville. It's very easy to do that. So for example, if you live in the Highlands, a lot of the time you stay in your Highlands bubble. If you live in St. Matthews, you stay in your St. Matthews bubble. So being able to reach out and look at all of them, kind of having a bird's eye view over all of them as an arts and culture reporter, it's I think it's awesome because it's also a great way for other people to learn about things that aren't happening in their community, but something that they might be interested in somewhere else in a different part of the city. I think that's been a really fun experience that I've gotten to do so far, and I'm very excited to continue to do that as well.
Yeah, and cross those maps. It's so funny because I'm also not from Louisville, but to me, I'm like, if you go 15 minutes away, it's too far, but everything's pretty close together.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's interesting to hear about the different bubbles, but I totally understand that and the neighborhoods.
Yeah, of course. Like when I went to Bellarmine, when I was a freshman and I lived in the dorms. I lived in the dorms at Bellarmine for probably like 2-3 years ago or so. When I was in the Highlands bubble because Bellarmine is in the Highlands. I was in that kind of bubble. I didn't really venture out much unless, you wanted to go to the mall and get something nice. But other than that, that was kind of where I stayed. I didn't have a car, so I didn't really go anywhere. So when I got my internship with Leo, that was my opportunity to kind of spread out because at that time I was living in an apartment and I was able to kind of venture out more. And that was kind of my real introduction into Louisville. So I kind of say I've been here since 2019, but I've been in Louisville since 2021 because that was my big introduction.
Right. Well, so, I mean, being on the arts and culture beat, how does that help us understand Louisville in a deeper way?
Yeah. So I think the arts and culture beat people kind of take for granted sometimes because I also have a very big responsibility in my job because I understand I'm one of the only full-time arts and culture reporters in the entire city. It's a lot. There's a lot going on. You can imagine how my email is always flooded with, my inbox is always flooded with things. It's a lot. But I think some things that are super important to note is that there's a lot of really awesome things that are happening in the city that make you feel proud of where you're from or proud of where you live. I think it's really difficult sometimes now for people to be proud of where they're from or proud of where they live, especially in a time where it's very heightened politically. Like our politics, our state team is doing a lot, talking about the legislator, and it can be a lot. It can be a very scary time for people, and I think arts and culture is a way to kind of escape from that. I think it's a way to show that there are good things happening in our community, and here's how you can kind of cultivate joy in your own little world and leave your bubble and find joy elsewhere. I think that's the really cool thing about Louisville is there's so many different microcosms of places where you can find that joy. And I also think it's my job to find those too. And I think it's just so fun to be able, it's kind of like I get to do the fun beat. That's kind of what I say to people all the time.
Well, and also when you're getting to know Louisville, there's probably reflections of what Louisville is and what Louisville stands for in those arts and culture, or maybe even in activism and arts cross-sectioning.
Yeah, of course. Even in the job that I had before with WFPL, I did talk to a lot of activists, and there were a lot of points where activism and art do intersect because through art, you are explaining how you feel about something in some forms of art. So seeing those intersect and seeing that as part of an identity in Louisville, especially since 2020, and now activism has been on the rise, especially because of that. But how all of that kind of blossomed, how COVID and the racial uprising across the country, how all of that kind of turned into art in Louisville, I think is a really cool thing. Even the Breonna Taylor mural that's always in Jefferson Square, when there's moments of reflection or when people that were organizing back then are coming together, that's a form of art that people don't really pay attention to. It's somebody sat down and created that because they felt something in their spirit or something in their heart that they wanted to make a statement, and that's art, So
looking at Louisville, as a whole in this arts world, I mean, how do you see Louisville fitting into the national arts conversation?
Yeah, Louisville's starting to definitely get put on the map, definitely want to highlight the Louisville Orchestra. Teddy Abrams is doing some really awesome things with the Louisville Orchestra, and then he also is extended. He's doing more work with them. He just got his contract extended, which is really exciting. I think Louisville's slowly becoming more and more on the scene. And even in sports, Yard Nagoose was in the Olympics last year, and he was a student. He was a high school student in Louisville. That's so cool. I think there's a point where there's certain things that Louisville brings because it brings a little Midwest flair and a little Southern flair together, and it's very unique in that way. And I think it creates some really awesome creatives in this city, and then they branch out and go other places. whether it's with music, like Bryson Tiller. Bryson Tiller's from Louisville, and he's a great R&B artist, but also has spread his creation out into the world everywhere. Same with Jack Harlow. Like, that's kind of a really cool thing. You see the people that were raised in Louisville and decide to bring out just beautiful art that they've created. I think it's really cool. It definitely puts Louisville on the map for sure, and it teaches people how to say it correctly.
Yeah, that's important.
Very important. I learned that so quickly when I moved here.
So in the last, few years being here, where have you noticed creativity really thriving? Are there any like specific neighborhoods, venues, or spaces that stand out to you?
Yeah, so I think it really just depends on what world you like. I'm a musician. I play a couple instruments, and I've really just been inspired by the music scene here. Also with help from Kiana Dell, who does music education here for WUOL. She's also kind of opened me to that scene as well, which has been really fun. I think the communities that are the most important, obviously, like when you're a tourist and you come to Louisville, it's like, oh, check out downtown, check out Nulu. But there's also so many other places in our city, especially folks in the West End. There are so many creatives that come from the West End. There's so many great photographers and artists and poets, and they come from the West End and they create such beautiful pieces. And I've gotten to highlight a few of them. Or even like the sports world. You know how many people have come from the sports world that have lived in West Louisville? Daryl Griffith, to name one. And I've gotten to cover the Dirt Bowl, which is like one of the coolest basketball tournaments, and it's one of the longest standing in the state. And I got to cover that this summer. That was, for me, that was kind of a reflection of like, there's so many cool people that come out of places you would not imagine them coming from. Like Louisville, Kentucky, you never would have thought that like an NBA player would come from this little town in Kentucky, which somebody will say it's a little town. It's not a little town in Kentucky. It's a lot bigger than people think it is, but that's fine too. But I think that the people that we really need to pay attention to, especially the food scene too. Mm-hmm. Like the food scene, people are typically like, oh, let's go check out Nulu. Like, yeah, the places on East Market Street are awesome. They're phenomenal. Like Mayan Cafe, to name one. Bruce Khan, who owns Mayan Cafe, phenomenal chef. I got to meet him when I was working in my graduate study. I did my independent study about parts of Nulu. And I got to talk to him, and he's a phenomenal person. People that work over there are awesome. But even going past that, talking about folks in the West End, we have some of this, some of that. That place is awesome. I remember our William Padmore did a Now Eat This special about it. It's so good. And finding food in places you wouldn't expect, I think, is where Louisville really shines. Louisville's also a food city. Mm-hmm. And you can find good food pretty much anywhere. I think that's the really cool thing about it. There's not necessarily a neighborhood that's the best or a neighborhood that's the worst. It's everywhere. You know what I mean? You can go down the street and find some really good food. And you're like, if I didn't walk like 100 feet this way, I never would have saw this place. The mom and pop shops are huge here, and you can find them in pretty much every part of the city.
Yeah, I love that about this city. It feels like all the more corporate things seem to be outside of the city, like in one concentrated area.
Yeah.
Because it's very community based. But I could be looking at that wrong. But that's how I've noticed it as a kind of a civilian walking around.
Yeah, I've noticed it like that too. Yeah.
So speaking of that, just being that there's so many things from food to art, everything in between, what are a few emerging people, artist groups, or things like that you think deserve more eyes and ears right now in our scene?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. I don't want to miss anyone. You know what I mean?
Well, that's impossible.
I know. I feel like it. I feel like it is kind of impossible. Definitely pay attention to those smaller theater companies, Time Slip Theater, Chamber Theater, folks like that. Pay attention to them. They're gonna do some really cool stuff. Their theater season is just starting. Check it out. Check them out. They're pretty awesome. Also, pay attention to the mom and pop shops that you see driving by. I'm a huge mom and pop shop person. I love to go places like that. I think the people that deserve kind of the most, I'm thinking about all of the people that I've talked to since I've taken this role, and it's almost hard for me to pick one person. Mm-hmm. Because I really enjoy just talking to all of the people that I've met. Oh man.
And we could go back to it too if you're thinking about stuff.
Yeah, I might have to think about that because that one, oh my gosh, I just think about all the people that I've talked to, and it's hard to pick one.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. Well, you can pick a few too.
Yeah.
But we'll come back to that because I want to talk to you about Curious Louisville.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned it earlier. For listeners who might not know, what is it and what kinds of questions have you been digging into lately?
Yes, I am so excited. So Curious Louisville is where folks in Kentucky and Louisville and Southern Indiana get to ask us questions about things in their community that they've kind of been curious about. These little curiosities that maybe it's going to take a little bit more investigating to understand why something is the way it is. So I stopped in around 2020, COVID kind of affected a lot of things, and we haven't done Curious Louisville in a while. It started in 2018 with the producer of On Track, Laura Ellis. So I remember I spoke to Laura when I started it was my first year. After my first year had wrapped at LPM, I said, okay, I want to do something. I want to do something a little different. I remember meeting with Laura and I said, look, I really love that we did Curious Louisville, and my editor at the time, Amina Alahi, had also done a couple episodes, and she was saying how much she loved it, and I was like, oh my gosh, we should bring this back. And Laura Ellis, I thought she was going to shoot me down and be like, no, we're not doing this. And she was like, I have been waiting so long for someone to say that we should bring back Curious Louisville, and we did it. So the ones that we've done so far, our inaugural episode when we started the new shows, the new episodes, what we did Who is the Voice of the Crosswalks? Because I know everybody's probably heard the walk sign, Bardstown Road. That's my best imitation of the thing. I'm sorry if it's not that good, but but that was our first episode, and I got to do that one. It was so fun, meeting. So we got to meet the question asker, and we got to meet with him, and I also got to meet the voice of the crosswalk. I won't spoil it so people can listen to it, but I got to meet the voices of the crosswalk, and I got the question asker and the voices to meet together, and that's how we made the episode. So far, we've had several episodes so far. We've had Who Were the Faces on the Old Manual High School building. We've had Does a Spy Really Live in Someone's House in Germantown? That one was a really cool episode. Joe Sanka did that one. That one was a lot of fun. I've kind of had a hand in doing all of these, not only because I keep all the questions that we have. We have probably 70 questions.
Wow.
Already, and we only started a few months ago. And it's so cool to see how many things people wonder about in this city, and from different parts, from different neighborhoods too. It's really awesome to kind of see that. We've got another one coming out really soon. Our data reporter, Justin Hicks, is working on it at the moment. I won't spoil it and say what it is, but we've got one coming out later this month, and I'm super excited about it. And then I'll probably pick another one up, and I'm hoping to do a spooky themed one.
Yes.
We have a couple spooky kind of themed ones coming up here soon. But I've been really excited to do Curious Louisville. It's such a fun podcast. It's kind of a break from the news cycle and learn something new about your city, and it's a quick little 7-minute listen. So I've really been enjoying doing it.
So if someone has a question, how do they reach out to you?
Yeah, so if you have a question about anything in Louisville or Southern Indiana, of course, you can go to curiouslouisville.org. And there's going to be submit your own question. That's what it's going to say. And you can fill out this Google form and then submit it. And then I will be able to see it. And we'll consider whose question we're going to answer next. We do one every month. So we do a once a month answer a question.
Well, thank you, Giselle. We'll be back in just a minute. You're listening to On Track from Louisville Public Media. You're listening to On Track, and we're checking in with LPM's arts and culture reporter, Giselle Rhoden, for the latest updates on Louisville's vibrant art scene. So it's fall in Louisville, spooky season, art fair season, pumpkin and leaves changing season. What's on your radar right now when it comes to Halloween or fall traditions coming up?
Oh my gosh. So I will say I love spooky season. I love fall. It's my favorite season, so I'm super excited to get into it. Of course, Boo at the Zoo is starting. The Jack-o'-lantern Spectacular is coming up. I will have, I'm working on a feature right now, actually, with the Appalachian Mid-South Newsroom to do a kind of behind the scenes for the Jack-o'-lantern Spectacular. So I'm super excited for that to come out soon. There's a lot of haunted houses and haunted attractions coming out. If that is kind of your thing, if you're into those spooky haunts, Haunted Hotel, Grim Trails. I remember doing a feature with Bria last year of us going through. If you want to hear me scream and cry because I'm walking through Grim Trails and I'm kind of a scaredy cat, you should definitely check that out. We also have the Devil's Attic, and of course Kentucky Kingdom's having some stuff coming out. There's a lot going on, but also at the same time, it's also Hispanic Heritage Month for the next couple weeks. So it's a great time to shop with Latinx owned businesses, and also the Louisville Slugger Museum has free admission for the duration of the month, and anyone who donates new and gently used baseball equipment can also support Play Ball Puerto Rico, which will bring youth baseball back to Puerto Rico after a natural disaster. So there's a lot going on, whether it's spooky season or Hispanic Heritage Month. There's definitely a lot to kind of get into in Louisville.
One of the things I've heard about just as a newcomer too is the St. James Art Fair.
Oh my gosh, yes! Oh my gosh, how could I forget the St. James Art Fair? It's gonna be great. I love going. It's such a fun time. If you want to kind of dip your toe into the art scene, I think this might be your way to do it. If you're more of an artsy person, maybe not in necessarily more of a music sense, but if you like the actual visual art, this is your time to do it. For sure, this is your time to do it.
And that's in Old Louisville, right?
Yes, that is in Old Louisville.
And then you mentioned music. Are there any music happenings coming up that you're excited about?
Yeah. So there's a lot of jazz events going on right now. I got to cover a few, so that's been really fun. Definitely check those out. I know obviously because we have, WFPK and WUOL, we've got some really cool stuff. Don't want to spoil what they have going on, but definitely check them out too. We've got some really cool stuff with that. I definitely think that people and places to follow, definitely check out WFPK, WUOL. Also, if you're more into the house and dance scene, definitely check out Black Queer Power Hour is a really cool way to get involved in the music scene. If you're more into house or EDM or the dance scene, I definitely would check that out. Just some places to follow just to see if they have any events coming up, which I promise they will.
Is there any specific fall event that you're excited about?
Oh, man. I think I'm most excited. I think I'm most excited to go to Haunted Hotel. Oh. I've been to Haunted Hotel before. When I went the first, so this is just so folks are aware, in case you're like, oh, I want to go to that. They can touch you.
Ooh.
So please be aware that they can touch you. If that's not your thing, please don't go. But I'm really excited to go. I'm definitely thinking about taking my girlfriend because I know she's never gone. I love it. I love how hard they work to make it such a unique experience, because I think some people don't like haunted houses because it feels like they're all the same. I do think Haunted Hotel is so cool. Even the scare actors, the way that they make their outfits, the way that they make the Haunted Hotel so realistic, and it's just a building. Mm-hmm. It's nothing too crazy, but they make it seem so real. And I think I admire that a lot. So it makes me a little less scared because I'm really just paying attention to how awesome this looks. Paying attention to how spooky and how scary it is and how they actually make you scared to be in there. I think that's the cooler thing that I'm more focused on. But I'm super excited for all the haunts that are coming for October.
That's me too. I love horror, so I'm in it. So good to know about Haunted Hotel. That's a great tip. Well, now, looking into just, past fall, I'm just curious about your work. Are there any recent stories you've worked on that really stood out to you that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's been so fun because I also get to report more now because I am the arts and culture reporter. I think one of the ones that I really loved doing was one I did recently. Just because I'm kind of involved in the music scene and I have friends that are too. I also have a lot of friends that are teachers. So there have been a lot of conversations, especially on social media, about music education at JCPS. And I was noticing it was a lot of conversation, but nobody had answers. So I was like, let's just check it out, And I had hit up our education reporter, Jess Clark, and she's working on a podcast right now. So I was like, let's do some digging. So she gave me a couple resources and it was off to the races. And I got to find out what funding is like for music education at JCPS. And it did change this school year. And nobody was really aware of it, of how principals are now in charge of kind of allocating funds for across 4 different departments. The funds that used to be for music are now for 3 other places. So it's 3 other places and music that are quote unquote arts related. So it does have an impact on these teachers. It does have an impact on students because there was talk on social media of 11 kids in a band class that didn't have an instrument to play this year. And the school year just started. And as somebody that has been playing instruments for the last 15, 20 years, that breaks my heart that some kid doesn't have the opportunity to do that. So not only was it answering questions for the community, but it was also like, this is a passion project for me because I think it's so important that kids get involved with music early. So it was really good to kind of talk to board members and ask the questions that the community really isn't able to ask because they don't know who to ask. I think that's kind of the coolest part of my job is if somebody has a question, I'm able to find the answer if I need it, you know?
So about that, then, if anyone wants to follow that story, if they want to stay plugged in on this scene, how can they follow your reporting and keep up with Louisville's arts and culture scene?
Yeah, obviously you can check out lpm.org, and then we have an arts and culture tab, and you can find all of my reporting there, which is probably going to be the easiest way to do it. We're hopefully going to bring back the Arts and Culture Etc. newsletter really soon, so look out for that. Make sure your email is correct, and we can get you plugged in and keep you updated on all the arts and culture scenes. I'm super excited to get started and continue in this role.
And did you think of those lesser known entities that you wanted to shout out?
Yeah. Definitely check out Hip Hop Into Learning. It's a group of kids that use hip hop to tell stories about things that they're passionate about. You may know the iconic "Where's My Bus At?" So that was pretty awesome.
I love that song.
Yeah, I got to speak with the two founders Nyree Clayton Taylor and Antonio, and it was awesome. Those kids are so awesome. And also check out Black Coffee. They got 2 locations now. Black-owned coffee spot. Their story is really cool. You can check that out also on lpm.org. I told their story as well.
Giselle, thank you so much for hanging out with us on Track today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Aisha.
Giselle Rhoden is LPM's arts and culture reporter, originally from just outside St. Louis. She moved to Louisville in 2021 and studied communications and digital media at Bellarmine University. Before joining LPM, they reported at Leo Weekly and CNN Digital. On Track is a production of Louisville Public Media. The On Track production team includes Michelle Tyreen Johnson, Alex Biscardi, and Laura Ellis. If you're just tuning in and you want to hear the full show, you can find it now at LouisvilleOnTrack.org or in your favorite podcast app. And let's continue the conversation. Is there something you want to hear about? Something that matters to your Kentuckiana experience? Let us know by sending us a text or giving us a call at 502-814-TALK or send an email to ontrack@lpm.org. I'm Aisha Jaffer, and remember, being kind is free. That's the start of community. Until next time, you're on Track with Louisville Public Media.